Chapter 523, Who is the most powerful? This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Standing on the prow, Xu Hai looked very elegant in a splendid silver-white robe. He looked at Zhang Yuochen, standing above the water level, and said with a smile, "Zhang Yuochen, why did you stop escaping?" Zhang Yuochen had a look at the ship on which Xu Hai stood. He saw 6 corpses falling on the deck, gushing fresh blood. Obviously, they had just died. The 6 dead people were soldiers of the primitive world in Xu Hai's squad. Zhang Yuochen asked, "Why did you kill them?" Xu Hai said with a smile, "I can't let it out that I have come here to kill you. If they talk nonsense about me killing a fellow warrior from Kunlun's field after returning to base, I'll be punished by the Ministry of War." Zhang Yuochen said, "So, you killed them to keep their mouths shut. If it were not to form a squad to leave Huanghe Island, do you think I would take the same boat as them?" Xu Hai said again, "Furthermore, this wasn't murder. Upon reaching the base, I'll tell the government officials at the Ministry of War that they were killed by aboriginals from Xuanwu primitive world. As a result, their families will be given large pensions." Zhang Yuochen asked, "If I kill you, will the Ministry of War give a pension to the Saint Xu gentry?" Xu Hai looked solemn and cold. But soon, he roared with laughter, saying, "Zhang Yuochen, are you dazzled by your reputation as the number 1 on the heaven board? You really think that you're invincible simply because you can't find a decent opponent? But to tell you the truth, you're just an ant in front of masters in the fish dragon realm." Zhang Yuochen said, "Isn't it too early to jump to that conclusion? Only after having a fight will we know who is stronger, right?" Xu Hai said, "You're so arrogant and conceited. In the case, as your elder brother, I'm responsible for teaching you how to conduct yourself with humility. Master, you don't need to deal with the warrior in the heaven realm personally. I'll kill him for you." A monk in the fish dragon realm came out from behind Xu Hai. He was Xu Qianling, an elder of the Saint Xu gentry. Armed with a 4-meter black golden stick, Xu Qianling took a step and rushed out of the ship. Treading on top of the waves, he struck Zhang Yuochen first. Seeing that Xu Qianling rushed out, Xu Hai did not start making his moves. For the moment, he thought to himself that Xu Qianling was strong enough to cope with Zhang Yuochen. Xu Qianling had reached bone refining to jade of the 3rd change in the fish dragon realm. He was powerful enough to not be compared with warriors in the heaven realm. Even if Zhang Yuochen ranked first on the heaven board, he could not be stronger than Xu Qianling. What's more, Xu Qianling was the disciple of the Saint Gentry, so he was stronger than an ordinary monk in the 3rd change in the fish dragon realm. Even if he fought with a 4th change monk, he might not be defeated. How could Zhang Yuochen possibly defeat him? Xu Hai had confidence in Xu Qianling. Thus, he was too lazy to start making a move. After all, you don't need a sledgehammer to crack a peanut. Swoosh! Xu Qianling's genuine chi was abundant. It surged through his arms and into the black golden stick, a 10th level genuine martial arm. He brandished his war staff, stirring a layer of seawater into a wave that surged towards Zhang Yuochen. Spurred by the strength of Xu Qianling's staff technique, waves smashed against Zhang Yuochen's celestial body shield and flung him about 30 meters away. Ha ha! The number 1 on the heaven board is nothing more than an ant in front of a fish dragon realm monk. With a laugh, Xu Qianling held the war staff and launched an attack once again. Zhang Yuochen steadied himself and stopped retreating. He pulled the Abyss Ancient Sword out and turned his arms quickly over the water to stir up a circle of waves. Water rotated around the blade like a stream. With the sound of a crack, the circle of waves froze and turned into numberless 3-inch ice knives. Out! Zhang Yuochen swung his arm and the ice knives flew at Xu Qianling like a rain of blades. Heaven-shaking fury. Xu Qianling chopped downwards with his stick. The black golden stick formed a 30-meter-long shadow as wide as a bowl. It stroked downward and shattered all the ice knives into a fine powder. The huge staff shadow contained the most frightful force. It depressed the whole surface of the water, stirring up waves about 30 meters tall. Zhang Yuochen immediately put his sword sideways to block. Sword breath came out endlessly, like a body flying up. It formed a large bell of sword breath. Pow! In an instant, the huge staff shadow shattered the large bell of sword breath. and he was struck and flung away once again. His sword hand suffered a minor injury and throbbed. Jiang Yuochen, I've told you so. The first on the heaven board could only be a king in the heaven realm. Once you meet masters in the fish dragon realm, you're only an ant. To be honest, I just used half of my force. Xu Qianling felt confidence in victory and strode toward Jiang Yuochen. He was excited, and he thought to himself that if he could kill Jiang Yuochen, it would be a great contribution. Surely, he would be granted the rich reward promised by the ancestor. Jiang Yuochen sighed and said, with my current strength, I'm far away from a monk in the third change in the fish dragon realm. Unfortunately, you learned too late, Xu Qianling said with a laugh. It's not too late. Jiang Yuochen shook his head, immediately took charge of his martial soul, and mobilized the spiritual chi between heaven and earth. Swoosh! In a flash, the spiritual chi between heaven and earth flew to Jiang Yuochen endlessly, making his aura stronger and stronger. Jiang Yuochen had been fighting Xu Qianling with only his own power, instead of with his martial soul. However, martial soul was his greatest strength. His martial soul was comparable to a monk in the seventh change in the fish dragon realm. Aided by his martial soul, he seemed to turn into another person. He held his sword and stood there calmly. However, it put a lot of pressure on Xu Qianling. How strong his martial soul is. Xu Qianling immediately stopped in shock. His face grew darker. Then, he also summoned his own martial soul to mobilize the spiritual chi between heaven and earth to assist himself. However, Xu Qianling's martial soul was as strong as his cultivation realm, which was only at the third change in the fish dragon realm. Thus, his strength was not enhanced a lot with the assistance of his martial soul. No matter how strong his martial soul, he's only a warrior in the heaven realm. Xu Qianling suppressed his anxiety and calmed down. He mobilized his genuine chi with all his strength and displayed the 8 diagrams for guard, a staff technique at the inferior class of the ghost level. He rotated the black golden stick quickly to form huge vortex strength. Sea water from several miles around the defense collected into a thick water column about 100 meters high. Rumble. His staff technique was an impressive display of power. The water column struck Jiang Yuochen like a huge stick. Xu Qianling stood in the center of the water column to mobilize genuine chi into the black golden stick continuously. His skin became golden and his bones became as tough as white jade. Jiang Yuochen flew up from the water surface and hung suspended in midair. Suddenly, he used the shadow of the royal wind dragon. He rushed forward and the genuine chi inside his body condensed into a wind dragon dozens of meters long. He stood at the head of the wind dragon and brandished his sword. An arc-shaped projection of sword radiance struck the thick water column. With a boom, the sword breath broke the water column into 2 parts. Splash! The water column dispersed and changed into water drops. They eventually came down as heavy rain. Xu Qianling's body was broken in 2. Both parts fell into the water and dyed the surrounding seawater blood red. He just used one stroke to kill a superior in the third change in the fish dragon realm. Xu Hai startled and felt unbelievable. He asked himself, is Jiang Yuochen's unique skill swift and neat? Xu Hai never saw the fight between Jiang Yuochen and Huang Shenyi, so he did not know the real swift and neat. However, Jiang Yuochen was well known as the first on the heaven board. His single-move sword technique, swift and neat, was thought to be a gift from above. It had become his unique skill, and it terrified numerous warriors. Xu Hai did not know that Jiang Yuochen had just used swift swordsmanship. Jiang Yuochen had acted too quickly and accurately. Moreover, he saw the flaws of the 8 trigrams for guard. Thus, he could kill Xu Qianling with one stroke. He came to the surface again and picked up Xu Qianling's black golden stick. He refined the stick with the Abyss Ancient Sword. A moment later, another basic inscription had appeared on the Abyss Ancient Sword. Xu Hai stared at the Abyss Ancient Sword. He felt that after the absorption of the black golden stick, the Abyss Ancient Sword became sharper and its power more volatile. This sword should be a holy weapon. No wonder Xu Qianling could not block Jiang Yuochen's stroke, even with an amulet treasure. How could an ordinary amulet treasure withstand a holy weapon? Xu Hai squinted and snorted, saying, it's unbelievable that you can refine genuine martial arms. Thus, your sword may be a 100 inscription weapon, or even 1,000 inscription weapon. Zhang Yuochen glanced at his abyss ancient sword and said, "Do you want this sword?" The corners of Xihai's mouth turned up as he said, "Besides your sword, I'll take away all your treasures." Xu Konglin, Xu Chen, if either of you can behead Zhang Yuochen, I'll give you a holy weapon. Xihai only had one holy weapon, which was one of the supreme treasures of the Saint Xu gentry. He would use it to deal with Zhang Yuochen if necessary, so he would not give it to Xu Konglin or Xu Chen. However, Zhang Yuochen had a lot of holy weapons. If Zhang Yuochen was killed, those holy weapons would belong to Saint Xu gentry. Then, it would not be a big deal for Xihai to give a holy weapon to one of them. Behind Xihai, the eyes of two monks in the fish dragon realm, Xu Konglin and Xu Chen, sparkled when they heard the words holy weapon.